Oh my God, it's
Mr.
T with T.
Mr. T.
Spilling tea.
Oh, Mr. T. Spilling tea, yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Cami Kaos.
And I am Rick Turoczy, and this is Mildly Interesting People, where Cami and I, who are admittedly mildly interesting, bring someone far more interesting on as a guest to entertain you. Cami, do you want to let folks know a little bit about who our not so mystery guest is? That you can see him right now, but go ahead. You just need to sit there awkwardly while we talk about you. That's
in
the
front
idea.
Of your face.
Yeah. And we just zoom in on your face while we're talking. That's how
I don't know how close this thing focuses. Fairly close.
It does really well.
That's good. Yeah.
You know, I really only have one thing to tell you about this person, and it is for the first couple of years that I knew him, I didn't actually know what his name was. And we're going to dive deep into that topic of conversation, and we're going to find out exactly why it is that he's called Penguin. Everyone, welcome our guest, Jeremy Tanner, a lovely, lovely human, a good friend of ours, and a penguin. Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So great to have you here. I first met Jeremy, I think this is maybe the 15-year anniversary of when we first met.
At South by?
Yeah. But that was the thing with Jeremy, was like, I literally only ever saw him associated with events, to a point that I was like, oh, I can only see Jeremy when there are events. And then he was nice enough one day to just hit me up out of the blue and be like, hey, we should go grab lunch. And I'm like, oh my God, how do I interact with Jeremy if we're not at an event? So it's an absolute pleasure to have you here. We actually created this podcast because it's kind of like an event, and I can deal with you effectively in an event.
That's not why I no, me. Don't speak for me, man.
Okay, well,
I wanted to do this event because it's like going out for a drink with someone, which is fair. What we frequently do when Jeremy comes to town. The last time we saw Jeremy was in the last snowstorm we had.
That's true.
It was unexpected, and we wound up having a beautiful brunch by a fire. It was like we were like snowy little ski resort. It was lovely.
It was a pre-ski kind of situation.
Yeah. I felt very bougie. Okay, but what I really want to know, just the right amount of bougie, not too bougie, but like Portland bougie. Jeremy, why are you Penguin?
Penguin. So most folks know that from Twitter, which has now become a dumpster fire. But for those same 15 or 16 years, I started using it fairly early after one of the South by Southwests. But Jeremy was taken. So
what? Someone has snatched up Jeremy already?
Twitter employee number 2 or 3, who was like Odeo employee number 2 or 3, Jeremy Latress, who had done
Damn you, Jeremy.
who had done ops work, and I was like, well, it's taken. Well, what now? It's like, well, Penguin's a good second choice. I like the cold. A fat one breaks the ice. This'll do the thing. This'll do the trick.
So you just named yourself Penguin because you wanted a cool Twitter name?
Well, I mean, back before you were like first name bunch of numbers, it was wide open. You could say anything.
Oh, that wasn't judgment. That was respect and awe. So, I mean, let's get that straight. I'm impressed.
It's on the back of my like college broomball jerseys and whatever else. When you need something, back before it was neat to do the personal branding thing and be yourself on the internet, you're like, oh heavens no, don't use your real name. Call yourself Batman or something.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't use my real name on the internet, and then I changed my name so that I don't know why my internet name was my real name. I was like, well, I'm changing my name anyway, so that'll just be more convenient and tidy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I totally thought you were camping on Club Penguin to really make bank.
was very simple. I thought we were going to spend like 20 minutes discussing your name.
Well, that's the show. Thanks for coming, folks.
Everyone, this has been Penguin.
See you later, mildly interesting people.
It's like an Antarctic Batman situation where there's like a penguin cave and
Slide.
I do want to go into, though I mentioned the events, but I think Jeremy always feels to me like one of those amazing extroverts who collects introverts and like protects them and socializes them with other normal people. And
raise your hand if you're an introvert that Jeremy is taking care of.
Oh, and I don't take good enough care of myself, but no, I'm very introverted. I can do the thing, but I mean, I like my Kindle. I like my the Steam Deck. I like snuggling with the kids. It's but oftentimes you need to be out in the world, and so I can do that too.
You're very good at like embodying that kind of extrovert thing. Like that was it. Like literally, just to get really nostalgic, was one of those like South by. First time at South by, I went to the what to do when it's your first time at South by, and they're like, one of the panelists was like, you go with it. Like it doesn't matter what you got planned, it doesn't matter what your schedule looks like. If somebody asks you to do something, just go with it, because that's where the amazing stuff happens. And literally the next event or the next panel I went to, Jeremy was sitting next to me, and he's kind of like, you want to bail on this stuff? This is kind of like, this is not great. And so that was my initial experience. And then it kept like, Jeremy, you've had such an interesting career of events. It's like both you attending and you like leading.
Can I just pause you for a moment? Some of the people I've brought on the show, we've talked about our meet cutes, but that's a ridiculous meet cute. Like, I just wanted to acknowledge the absolute cuteness and sweetness and wholesomeness of that interaction. And now please continue with whatever thing you were going to say.
I felt robbed because you're remembering the South by Southwest, but I had come to Portland even before that for startup weekend I was facilitating. And
I missed that one.
Not like deathly ill, but like ill enough, like you're supposed to do now. Like you still feel sick, you stay home, and you feel sick and you stayed home. And I don't know if there's masking and all the other things, but everything old is new again. And I was like,
nope.
Like I was supposed to meet Rick. I was supposed to meet Rick next time.
Yeah, I remember that too. I was really disappointed. And it was the time they hosted it at, like the initial venue fell through or something, and then like all kinds of weird stuff, and so I was like, I was really hoping to attend that, so I felt a similar way. So like when we wound up at South by, that was great, but then it was like, you show up for TechFest Northwest to do a MapQuest hackathon, and you show up to XOXO because it's a cool event, and I was able to like tear you away to go to lunch or whatever. But it was funny to me. Well, and then I think I was in Denver for something while you were at SendGrid, and so it was always these things where it was just event based, and it always leads me to wonder, Jeremy, like I have a similar path in terms of I've always been very supportive of founders or supportive of like tech people and their creative output. Like, what drove you to do that? Question one, and what inspired that? And then second part, why have you never been tempted to like make that leap yourself in terms of like starting something?
That's a good question.
Like I think starting something doesn't have to be like doing extreme capitalism. You can start community efforts. You can start a family. You can start groups. You can like.
God, Jeremy, I miss you. I miss
doesn't
you.
Like there's a bit like there's a bit of like the cult of the founder where you're like, yay, and then the VCs give you the money, and then you make all the things, and then you remake the world in your own image through charity that's not really charity, and
through false idolatry. Yeah, it's great.
No. But long ago, like, figured out that, like, my brain needs so much novelty. And so I kind of medicate with new cities, new people, repeatedly seeing favorite people, finding new situations, and parts of starting a thing that yours. If you're talking about starting a company, doing the startup thing, whatever else, you're buckled in for like 10 years of that being your identity. And the worst thing is not it going well or it going poorly, but it going meh and doing getting locked into 12 years of I guess this is the thing. And that's I've always wanted to, like, I've become bored, I want to do something else, or and so I can certainly help out folks who are on that journey and talk with them and connect them with other people. But it's not quite been time for me. Maybe I settle in it is in the future, but it's
retirement plan.
Yeah, exactly. I think entrepreneurship sounds really relaxing. Let's do that.
So relaxing, not stressful.
Along those same lines, I've always been curious, like, and it doesn't have to be like an actual company or anything like that. It could just be like a one-time project-y kind of thing. But do you have any like favorite, like, oh, I was running this startup weekend and there was this amazing thing that happened, or I was part of this hackathon and I was really impressed with the way people approach this problem? Like, are there any elements of that stick with you through your work?
There are, and a lot of the time it's watching that arc, and like as it goes longer and longer, you either run into the same people and you're like, yay, I see your company now, or I see what you're doing now, and I remember when you made the mashup when Netflix had an open API and Twilio and SendGrid, and you were able to, like, here's the thing that you want to watch, and whether you make that into a business or not, or when you see folks come together and you're like, yay, you're co-founders now, but the time that you realized you could fly and you really wanted to leave that job you hated was that weekend that you spent at the at the hackathon, or when you met other people who like, oh, do you like what I do? My boss hates what I do, and I'm really sad about it. And so in this time before the algorithm, before everyone was matched and shoved on each other, at the very beginning of Twitter, back in like beer and blog times, and meetups that you'd go to just because someone was using a similar service. The events were very important for discovery of, like, hey, someone else in my city likes the things that I like. And I've always liked to surround myself with people who are very into something, whether that's bicycling or amateur radio or circuit design or whatever the thing happens to be, sports fandom, like Timbers fans, like, wonderful to hang out with. And so you can, part of that is that initial ramp up when you're learning a new thing or a new hobby, where you're constantly, you haven't plateaued out yet. And so you're constantly like, oh, now I know something else. And getting stronger and just enjoying people who are enjoying the thing that they do.
Yep. I love that.
I want to talk about something specific that you said when Rick asked you about why you've never been a founder, essentially. And you said it becomes your entire identity. And that's incredibly accurate and very powerful. And so many things have become my identity over the years, even without being a founder. And I just want to know, without that, like, you're so cognizant of that. So what makes Jeremy's identity? Like, how do you identify yourself? Like, do you know what I'm asking? Like,
yes.
You don't identify yourself by being a founder. So tell me who you are.
No. So I think that a lot of times I'll tell people, like, I'll bring people back from that. When you meet someone out in the world, they say, like, what do you do? And their question is like, what character do you play for capitalism? And you can diffuse that somewhat with I have 2 tiny copies of myself. I like to ride motorcycles. I love to be in the mountains. And then something that may overlap with them, whether that's like, oh, like trying different whiskeys or play video games or whatever the thing is that you're into. But I think I've usually define myself more by what I like and who I want to be around, and what I want to call more into, as opposed to like, in which specific manner do you collect capitalism tokens?
Right.
And
right.
There's a lot of folks who are like, I am a level this at this company, and I'm hoping to do like, I mean, as we've seen recently, that's very fleeting. Like so little of that loves you back, whether it's
right.
the entity, whether it's even your own company. And I guess another reason that I've not started my own thing is sort of seeing the numbers and trying to and seeing how it's gone for the widest number of people. I know many talented people, and there's not really a great, as much as we pretend there is with the survivor bias, there's not really a great correlation with the most talented people have the most success. Like, you have between a 1 in 10 and 1 in 100 shot at things going well, and then things going medium, somewhere in the middle. But when you're in the business of throwing money at things, it's a puppy mill. Like,
yeah.
And you don't want to
be not a puppy. Oh.
You don't want to be a puppy.
The sadness. No. The only time one does not want to be a puppy is during a puppy mill. You landed on something that you put very eloquently, and I can't even pull it back out, that I feel really strongly about. I wanted this podcast not to be about what people did for a living. I didn't want it to be about how they make money or how they serve capitalism. I wanted it to be about who they are, and what they love and what they're passionate about. And I didn't expect you to answer my question in a way that made me want to cry. So thank you. And yeah, Rick, I'm going to cry, so you talk to him for a minute.
Okay, you go ahead and take a moment. If you need to go off camera or whatever, that's fine.
Drink instead.
That's kind of like going off camera. I don't even know how to phrase this, but like, following along that thread, I'll just put it bluntly. What was in the water in Boulder, Colorado in like 2007 or whatever? Because like, I honestly, like, I have some really close relationships in Portland, and I'm really lucky to have those relationships. And they're people I see on a regular basis. But I also have folks like you in my life. I have a handful of folks who are part of the Boulder kind of community in that time period who are like, not only close, but it's literally, I can go through a period of not seeing you for 18 months, 3 years. It doesn't matter. Like, we immediately just pick back up, like where we left off. Like, talk to me a little bit about the magic of that community at that point in time, and how you felt about being able to be part of that.
It was magic. Like, so part of it was the place we all were in our lives. It's the same thing, like you mentioned, South by Southwest. And so a lot of the times, like, did you really like this particular conference, which was good, or did you like being mid-20s, late 20s, early 30s,
or 50, like I was?
Say, Rick is like way older than you think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Underemployed with the ability to take a week and a half off, and take in the city. And so part of that was Boulder during that time frame was recession. So a lot of folks were underemployed and figuring out what was going on. Their time wasn't full. Boulder's geography is such that it's only, at the time anyway, and I think still, only a city of about 100,000 people. A lot of that is students. The students stay more or less on the hill, families in north and south. And so that downtown is really only several blocks. And so it's kind of like a movie set or whatever, where you keep walking past the same building and walking past the same building. I think the reason why folks are, if you went to college or school, the reason why you're great friends, or if you've made like with roommates, with people from school, was you had that much free time to impression yourselves on each other. And so Boulder was very much about free time, because there weren't commutes. I'd ride my skateboard 5 minutes to the office. For lunch, you walked down Pearl Street to figure out what was on happy hour, and then come back and work later into the night. But you'd see a lot of the same people, and there weren't that many people there. And if you wanted, there were so many people who were like young, didn't have I didn't have a family at that point, and so when you wanted to go out in the evening, if people didn't come out, it was because they didn't like you, not because you're like, oh no, I have to walk.
Are there people who don't like you?
I have to walk 3 minutes downtown. I'm sure there are some. Or I have to ride my bicycle for 5 minutes to get to the place. Right. It was just the continuous situation of everyone was so close together, and it was that, like, it wasn't quite communal living, but town is so small, and the people who ended up there, and it was cheap. It was cheap at the time too. Like you could live close to downtown before. This was when I think Google had bought. I'm trying to remember SketchUp. I think that was the. Like DoubleClick was down the road. SketchUp was the one that was on Pearl Street, and so Google didn't have an office there yet. Other companies hadn't come and broken everything and made it you couldn't, like, unless you had money, you couldn't own a house proper, but you could like student rental prices were still pretty student style, young professional rental prices were still very reasonable.
It just was like, to me, I'm always in awe of it, just because it was like one of those where the suburb was actually cooler than the metropolitan area kind of thing. Like it was really compelling to me. And I will never forget and I didn't know this, but like I must have been in Denver for like a startup event of some sort. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go over to Boulder and like visit Andrew Hyde or whatever and see what's going on. And walking into the co-working space, and it's like, oh, of course I interrupt a meeting with Jeremy and Andrew, and Jeremy doesn't even live in Boulder anymore. But like, it's like, so there was just something that's always been inspiring to me, not only about the community that you all were able to build at that point in time, but just the genuine, I don't even know how to put it. Like, you're just genuine. I think that's the best way to put it. Like, you had a group of genuine people who were all collaborating to do something that they were passionate about. And I always want to highlight that, because I don't know that you necessarily get the recognition for what was happening then. But to me, in my own selfish way, that's a, Paris in the 20s kind of vibe, right? Like, there was something happening there, and it was magic, and there were amazing people there. And the fact that that you come spend time with us and that we get to see you on a regular basis is just like an absolute blessing. So I'm always super thankful for that.
Yeah, Rick is gonna cry.
There were startups in town too. Folks had made money from a couple of I'm trying to remember the name of the era, but previous to that, the first boom, or the first run,
like the .com stuff.
Yeah, and so and then folks had and so there started being like that seed funding back when it was like, let's throw some money at a bunch of dirtbags. And so Techstars was at that time like class zero, the very first one. And no, it was at that time, it wasn't $150,000. It was $15,000 split across like 3 people. And and so there were folks sleeping on the couch in the ad agency that space was being shared with. There were like folks were like the team would oftentimes live together. There was one of the teams said at the end of the summer, like, that we had such a great time. Thanks for the experience, and went back to school. They weren't particularly serious about doing a capitalism. We rebuilt a video server. We made Facebook games. We did that was great.
I would like to bring doing a capitalism into our everyday vocabulary, please. They were doing a capitalism. They weren't doing a capitalism. I like it. I dig it.
One other thing I just want to touch on, and it's if you don't feel comfortable talking about it, it's totally fine. We can go off of it. But like I often say to Cami, I'm like, I think the mobile computery phone thing with the camera and the photo storage was specifically made for Jeremy Tanner, because like
So true.
my one of my favorite things about you is I don't care what you say about your kids. You're like, oh yeah, let me show you a photo. Here it is.
The
And
look
so-
on your face when someone asks about your children or asks to see a photo of your children is just like pure joy. And then there's a screenshot, like I imagine you like
or video or
when
whatever.
I'm in that experience, I feel like I'm sitting in someone's living room, no matter where I am, and someone's got the slide projector out, and they're like, click, click, click,
Yeah.
click, but not
Here,
in a boring
here.
way, just in a like
have-
a let
have
me
some
invite
fun,
you in.
have some fondue and
Yeah.
and watch our slideshow. Yes.
Let me invite you
Exactly.
into my life. See my beautiful children.
I keep doing it because it's really responded to well, because it's very rare that somebody's like, hey, like tell me about these kids, and you're like, I've got proof of life, and you start like and you're like, yes, I made beautiful copies of myself that I'm
You
very
did.
excited
Yes.
excited
Yeah.
about. And then and then at the same time I'm getting excited because I'm remembering all the time. Some of them wonderful and some of them like that type 2 fun, like terrible then, wonderful now, like
Yep.
so many of the things, like parenting, you have to, like, you describe it to people and they're like, I would know. And you're like, well, in the moment you love them so much, so you let them skate with it. But like,
Yeah.
what is it? The only thing worse than stepping in a cold puddle is stepping in a warm puddle, or
Fuck
like,
yeah.
like I used to be the only person who'd ever thrown up into my mouth, and so like, you learn not to hold the baby just like so, because it's not great, but it's funny. You live.
It's a memory. Yeah.
You are one of the people who, like, you've had brilliant things have happened in your life. You're an amazing human, and you are so full of joy, but it seems like making those little Jeremy coffees is one of the most amazing things that's ever happened in your entire life. And I don't,
Oh, very much so.
like, yeah.
I remember the day I rode my motorized skateboard to the hospital.
What a
I
way
was
to
like,
get to
it's
the
time,
hospital.
and so my wife drove the car to the hospital, and I'd finished up at work, and it's like, okay, it's time to go. And so yeah, we had the one car at that time, and I mean, I have a motorcycle also, but if you bring the motorcycle to the hospital, then you have to drive home separately, and it's a whole thing. But you can throw a skateboard in the back of the car, and then all come home together, which was kind of the play.
Thank you for sharing that with us. I just wanted to, like, it is so much a part of your identity to me. And one of the things that I look forward to, I'm not going to ask you to show me your children right now, but maybe after we're done recording, I might be like, excuse me, are there any new videos of cute children? Let's move away from children, though, and talk about not the skateboard, but you seem to have an obsession for two-wheeled vehicles, bicycles, motorcycles.
Yeah.
Do you ride scooters?
I don't own a scooter. So do you mean like the little battery powered
Yeah,
death
I'm
machines?
thinking about the little
or like
that,
Vespas,
like you can rent
or
all
like,
over. No,
yeah.
I do love a Vespa, but no, I was thinking about those scooters that you can rent all over town that like everyone breaks their arms on.
in a pinch, yes, but also like it's not everyone breaks their arms on it. I suppose it's the same thing I told.
This is a super mom statement. I apologize.
No,
You're gonna have to try out.
I usually give the dad statement. So like motorized skateboard, people will see it, they're like, that's super cool. You're like, it is super cool, but understand, I mean, number one, you're a loosely sealed sack of fluids and you should act accordingly. And I'm willing to let you try this, but it doesn't teach you to skateboard. It just accelerates the consequences. And so if you like to go fast and you're willing to eat shit, you are my guest. Like, let's have a time. And that's very much the same story with those poorly maintained hill scooters, whatever else that bachelorette parties have them that are all across the street. Like, and I don't think people are thinking of. I try and give people a warning beforehand. You're like, you like your blood better when it's inside you. You like your teeth better you like their teeth better when they're in your mouth. All of the things, bones unsnapped and whatever else. There's plenty of ways that scooters can go poorly, but if you're accepting the risk and if you're confident and competent,
and you wear a helmet, ladies and gentlemen, and you wear a helmet. Right. I don't care what he says, and you wear a helmet. Continue. Right. Sorry.
But yeah, so many things like bicycles, motorcycles, skateboards and snowboards, like being outside and present, like I very much like. And then also I said there's what I don't like the chance of hurting yourself, but I do like the intention that's required by understand that if you do this wrong, like focus on what you're doing, because if you're not paying attention, it forces you to pay attention.
That makes total sense. I rode one of those Vespa-esque. It was a Honda scooter, but like it was one of those where I got hit on it so many times in high school that it was like, yes, you're always conscious of what's going on around you, and it's not the safest mode, but to me it felt better than a motorcycle where I could get my leg pinned against it. At least I had that floorboard where like I had some mode of safety. Favorite brand of motorcycle, whether you've owned it or not?
Own one, I'd say Triumph. I think is the easiest way to go.
All British bikes.
But I think any motorcycle better than no motorcycle.
Interesting, because some people I've met are really like particular. They're like, well, if you don't ride this, then
I was afraid you were going to be a Ducati man, and I was like, I mean, Ducatis are nice, but I'm going to lose some respect for Jeremy. The fact that you won't Triumph makes my heart some joy.
Nice. Yeah, no, nice. I think anybody's out there like sport bikes, cruisers. The point is to get out and ride more so than it is, and ride the thing that you like. Yes, but all of it still counts.
Have you ever had the chance to do a road trip in Oregon on your bike?
No, I've not. I did a road trip when I moved to Texas. This is probably 10 years ago now, on the motorcycle, and so I put clothes in a little tail bag, and then experienced, I want to say, 70 degrees of temperature change. It was 10 degrees when I left Colorado, and it was snowing. But when it's so cold out, and if the road's not icy, it's so cold that the snow can't melt into water to turn back into ice.
Or stick to you. It just kind of blows by. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. I needed to reanimate myself in a hot tub after a number of miles, because the wind is a lot. But no, ended up making it to town, and was I think that's about 1,000 miles. But no, I would like to. I'd like to ride motorcycles in Oregon. Yeah,
I mean, there's some good rides for sure from the Gorge and Crater Lake and all that kind of thing. Which speaking of traveling, I don't even know how many, like, I don't know where you grew up. Like, where in the United States have you lived? Like, is there some place where you're like, this may be where I was raised, but this feels like home? Like, give us a little detail about, just from a personal perspective.
So it's been 10 years of Texas. It was 8 years of Colorado before that, split between Boulder and Denver, and then Michigan prior to that, both in the early in the life on the west side of the state, Metro Detroit area later, Upper Peninsula for school, back to Detroit, and then Boulder when fleeing Michigan for fun and profit. And I have I have family and friends who are still in Michigan, plenty in Colorado, plenty now in Texas, and then Pacific Northwest I like a lot too. And then especially Portland. My brother lives there now. I was trying to think of like when it was. It is a very high bar when you're like, okay, like mildly interesting people, but extremely interesting. And I was trying to think like, what have I done? What have I done that's interesting? And it feels
the bar is be more interesting than me and Rick. That's all.
Yeah, it's pretty
easy.
low bar.
It feels like the slow play, but then I think I was like, since Snowy Brunch, like what happened? I was like, well, I went back and went back to Southeast and cuddled the baby. I got some time with my niece, and then me and my niece and brother watched a bunch of the World Cup. Saw the World Cup one. Then I went.
He was here during World Cup. He missed half of a World Cup game to have Snowy Brunch with us. I'm just
with
saying.
us.
And then went back and left a job, and then started a new job and went to New York that first week to meet the team, and then came back from New York and had ramen at an Austin place that I like, and then went to the airport and I see the cameras and I was like, oh, maybe they're doing B-roll to see like, look, travel is up and everything's fine. Travel was not up and everything was not fine. January 11th was the first time in 20 some years that the FAA grounded every flight in the United States.
Oh, was that bug in the FAA?
Yes. The
Yeah.
NOTAM system, which they reverse acronymed. It was Notice to Airmen, but back in the day, you could only do things if you're a man. And so now that's not the case anymore. And so it's Notice to Air Missions, because any gender can go on a mission. And and so that finally got sorted, and I got to go to Japan, which was
oh, that's awesome.
Which was wonderful. And
where in Japan?
Then I got to
did you get to go?
In Japan.
Perfect.
We was first in Tokyo, and then went up to Hokkaido, the northern island.
Nice. Yeah.
And there's a Niseko, a little ski town there that's got mountains and snow higher than your head, and was wild. And so I got to go to a little speakeasy that's behind a ancient Coca-Cola vending machine.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
That has a bunch of different whiskey in it. I was able to experience some of the...
Wait, there was whiskey in the ancient Coca-Cola vending machine, or the whiskey
there's an entire bar
behind?
Behind the door.
Okay.
The door is like
the door is the vending machine.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah.
Okay,
And then
so
once
it's a
you're-
whiskey
once you're-
bar behind the Coca-Cola machine. Okay.
Yeah, it's like Japanese Scotch Narnia.
I have so many questions right now, and I know I'm conscious of the time, but I'm going to move us away. I'm going to move us back to Austin and ask a really important question. Breakfast tacos. Breakfast tacos is the question. Talk to me. Are you a breakfast taco connoisseur?
That's a statement. That's not
I
even a
just
question.
said, are you a breakfast taco connoisseur? That's a question.
But you just say, you're like, I have a question. Breakfast tacos.
All right. Wait, one moment. Allow me to ask the question properly. Breakfast tacos?
Absolutely. Especially if the question is like taco or burrito or whatever else.
No
or
if
someone's looking for you, you're like, well, which chain do you have to have? You're like, well, what's close? You're not
you can't go that far for a breakfast tacos.
You're not going to be sad, and especially on the at the edge of the city where you have like food trucks or where real estate is cheaper. A lot of things are like, ooh, this is very good, and they don't have to do the whole advertisements things and make a whole thing of it. Open a bunch of, you're like, nope, that's just crispy carnitas in a taco, and now you're not hungry anymore.
That was my question, so you've answered that one. And then the next question, also very important, but there's a third one. What do we have to do to get you to move to Oregon? I think I ask this every time. Come to us. You're one of the few people that I'm like, if you came to Oregon, I'd actually hang out with you on a regular basis.
The whole premise of this podcast is she's just trying to recruit you to Portland. That's really the only thing that's
I founded
happening
an entire podcast just so that we could get to the episode with you, so that I could be like, can you move to, I want to play with your children. I want to drink whiskey with you and play video games. Come hang out. Why are you not an Oregonian? You have family here. Join us.
I didn't accidentally click on some terms and conditions that now require me to relocate.
I swear. Well, you did.
We're sponsored by Travel Oregon. So
you did say something
I'm
about
getting a report
moving.
from mildly interesting general counsel that does say yes. There have to.
You did say something in the intake survey about moving, and I was like, maybe he's moving to Oregon. Maybe he's going to tell us something really exciting. And Rick was like,
I'm sorry to get your hopes up. No, by moving I mean everybody says like I like to travel, but I don't. It's not even necessarily like the travel for me. It's the something different. And so it can be moving along in a car, like moving down.
Okay,
Yep.
well then I retract
moving
my question.
Down the hill on a snowboard.
I retract my question, and I replace it with next time you're in Portland, let's go drink whiskey together.
Absolutely.
Okay. Rick, you may now speak.
No, I was just gonna. It's not even mildly interesting. I was just gonna say I'm one of those people who like I will take the way that's like 3 miles out of the way, 20 miles out of the way, just so long as I'm moving the whole time. Like there may be a more direct route, but if I have to sit and stop and those kind of things, so I really appreciate that nod to movement.
I feel like neither of you would California very well.
Yeah, no.
So I came back from California the day before. What day is today? I came back from California
Thursday.
Yesterday. And so like time is all
Oh, that was yesterday. Oops.
Yeah. So Wednesday I came back. It was a quick turn trip, and so I parked my car at the airport. And it was a little bit faster to go the toll route. And so I had the option of going the long way where you're driving much faster, or the shorter way that's sitting in traffic. And if they end up being the same amount of time, still the longer way. I think the longer way was a little bit shorter this time because it was longer distance wise, not longer time wise.
Yeah.
That may be a good future question for our next segment, which is, are you ready, Cami?
Mildly interesting questions. Mildly interesting questions from mildly interesting people.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy, are you ready for the lightning round?
I'm so ready.
Okay.
I would. Well, is there an option I can hit the pause. My son likes to do.
Hit the snooze button.
Like when I'm on
Phone
the
a
FaceTime,
friend.
hit the red button.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, is that enough of you? That's exactly the right amount of you.
No, because if you want to make it to the 5-time club and get maybe we'll go with an apron instead of a jacket. Do something.
Yeah, something.
Like a pair of custom Nike Dunks or something like that.
There we go.
That's like stitched mildly interesting across the backs of the heels.
We can work with Ian.
Interesting is a long word.
To get some,
Yeah, I like it. Okay. Well, further reason to have Ian on the show, which I have been requesting. So, All right, here we go. Favorite fun but useless hobby?
Fun but useless hobby? Ooh, that's easy. I play with yo-yos. So there's a company in Oregon called One Drop that makes these the toys on a string.
The butterfly version, is that what that particular model is called?
Well, this one's actually a little wider. It's it has like a bit of a V to it. Yeah.
I had a mild obsession with yo-yos for about 6 months because I have mild obsessions with things all the time. Question next. Would you like to survive the zombie apocalypse?
The cop-out being, it depends. Like, it's like, are we like, can I be on an island and the zombies are somewhere else and they're very bad at swimming? Or am I like... I Am Legend, like it's just me and the dog and rifle.
No. I was going to say, if you answer yes, I was then going to invite you to be on my zombie apocalypse survival island castle team. So I fully accept.
That's an upcoming podcast that we're going to produce. Is Cami's zombie apocalypse survival team. Please join us week to week. As we talk to the zombie survivors.
Pro tip: IKEA would make an excellent place to stay out the zombie apocalypse.
You're just pulling that from what's the Dawn of the Dead where they're in the mall?
No, I'm not, but it's a great point. IKEA
Mhm.
is it's not a mall.
We
it's
watch
like-
a lot. We watch a lot of zombies
zombie
in
movies.
And
the television.
IKEA acquired the company TaskRabbit, and so
Right.
Yes,
you could
they
probably
did.
just
You
so
could
just
pay
continually-
people.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Pay
like-
people to fight zombies for you. Hey, there's one in the kitchen section. Could you go get it for me, TaskRabbiter?
Just
Yeah.
follow the prints on the floor. It'll get there. You'll get there. Take the shortcut.
Here's your Allen wrench. Good luck.
Go get him, Tiger. Yeah.
All right. Next question. Last food that you photographed.
What was the last one? It was recent.
Just check your phone.
I have to look.
It's not
can't
like
have been
us
long
who are
ago.
using our phones as our cameras. We can.
I know the
check
last food
list.
I photographed, but
Yeah.
it's not
Um,
a question for me.
It's two things. It's does that focus? There we go. It's
Yeah,
a
there you got
beignet,
it.
and behind
Nice.
it there's
Oh.
like a biscuits and gravy.
Excellent.
With eggs on it.
I have
There was
some
a.
jealousy.
This is like 2-3 days ago in San
Mhm.
Francisco in Dogpatch. There's Just for You, which is like a Southern style breakfast place,
Nice.
brunch place. And
It's a lot of gluten.
I walked
Yeah,
out of
I can't have that.
a venue walkthrough I was doing, and I was like, I need some calories. Where is there? And so I opened. I was like, Foursquare, because it's still a thing. And it says like, hey, like, how about this restaurant? You were here 14 years ago.
No
I was
way.
like, oh shit.
That's amazing.
Did you remember it from 14 years ago, or did you have to have that prompt?
Vaguely. I needed the prompt. I didn't remember like neighborhoods. Like I remember somewhat, but that's not a place that I would
Yeah.
have said like
Yeah.
Huh.
this has to happen again. But it was good.
Yeah.
Also, I don't want to interrupt. I will edit this out or move it or
You're
something.
Fine. You're fine.
but-
Go ahead. This is
but-
the slowest lightning round ever because go.
It's ball lightning just rolling across the horizon. the Goala is coming back too. Like, so we're going to be back in like 2008 in no time flat. You know, coming out of a recession.
I'm not okay with 2008. 2008 was
Checking
not personally
in.
for me a good year.
All right, but what about Goala and Foursquare
Well, now you can dodge it.
and no and no
Dodge
Twitter?
ball it.
Just like
I
in
miss
the
Twitter.
days.
I miss Twitter. All right. Best season.
Best season? I think I'm going to go with the fall.
Nice.
I like
Yes.
being a little bit cold.
See, here's the thing. If we were a slot machine, we would win on that right now because all three
That's
of
right.
us are fall people.
Ding ding ding.
Mhm. Jackpot. All right. Last question. Magnets or stickers?
Oh no.
I'm team sticker.
Yes.
Ooh, that I did not, as a former employee of a sticker company, I did not expect that response.
I did.
Interesting.
Jeremy, I would like to officially extend an invitation to you to come back on this show again. Will you accept?
Four more times.
Four more times.
Four more times.
Four.
I'm at least 7. But
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
I can come back.
just going to write
Excellent.
that down. Yes, he'll come back.
Wait, what's that? Oh, the lawyers are drawing up the contract. It's all good.
No, take out the Oregon clause.
Oh,
No,
right.
Seriously,
Yes.
strike it. He doesn't have to move here. I like him enough. It's fine. He can stay wherever. Okay. Did you get it?
Cool. We're all
Right,
good.
they have big old red line through that. We'll send it over to you for some review. But yeah, that's it's been mildly interesting, Rick and Cami. Extremely interesting, Jeremy. And thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
It's
Thank you
really
for
great
having
to
me.
have you. Yeah, of course. And honestly, all joking aside, look forward to having you back and getting the chance to spend more time with you. Not only just come back to Portland and visit us, but let's make up stupid excuses to be on the World Wide Web and chat with one another on a regular basis.
Same.
This has been Mildly Interesting People with Cami Kaos and Rick Turoczy and our good friend,
Wildly
Jeremy-
interesting.
wildly interesting good friend, Jeremy Tanner. We highly encourage you to try and find something even remotely more interesting than the guest we just had.
I don't
and
know
we
if that's
will-
going to happen this week.
I don't know, but like they could subscribe and see if something happens. They might find somebody else. I'm not.
Are you
I'm not-
suggesting that they should subscribe and like?
I think this should be a competition with our guests, but we throw it in at the end, so they're like, "Oh shit, was I interesting enough? What is going on here?" It's like it's a thing. It's a plot twist. All right, enough. We got
You're not M. Night Shyamalan, Rick.
It was. It was the plants the whole time. So, Jeremy, I'm not telling you what movie the plants were in. It was Sixth Sense. It was the plants the whole time.
I see,
Jeremy,
people.
just always an absolute pleasure to get to spend time with you, but especially this time just to get to share this with people, and just really appreciate you taking the time to do it. So can't wait to have you back, and we'll let folks go, and we'll stop recording, and we'll chat for longer. So
absolutely happy to.
Good night, everyone.
And then when I come back and get my 5-time SNL jacket.
Oh, he's already
yes.
He's already inviting himself back. Jeez,
this is good.